Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Perkenalkan, saya Yuni Khairina, S.Pd M.Hum, dosen tetap pada program studi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni, Universitas Negeri Medan. Pada kesempatan ini, saya akan menyampaikan video Unjuk Kerja Tridharma Perguruan Tinggi, Pdd Uktpt, Bidang Pendidikan dan Pengajaran, sebagai salah satu persyaratan dalam mengikuti sertifikasi dosen. Melalui video ini, saya akan mendemonstrasikan implementasi pembelajaran pada salah satu mata kuliah yang saya ampu, yaitu Productive Written Language Skills. Mata kuliah Productive Written Language Skills merupakan mata kuliah wajib program studi Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris yang diberikan kepada mahasiswa semester 2 dengan bobot 4 SKS. Pembelajaran dilaksanakan secara tatap muka sebanyak 32 kali pertemuan selama satu semester dengan alokasi waktu 2 kali 50 menit pada setiap pertemuan. Mata kuliah ini bertujuan untuk mengembangkan kemampuan mahasiswa dalam menghasilkan berbagai bentuk tulisan berbahasa Inggris melalui proses menulis yang sistematis. Selain meningkatkan keterampilan menulis, mahasiswa juga dibekali kemampuan berpikir kritis, menyusun argumentasi berbasis bukti, memanfaatkan literasi digital, serta menerapkan etika akademik dalam setiap proses penulisan. Pada video ini, saya akan mendemonstrasikan pembelajaran pada topik How to Write a Good Argumentative Essay yang merupakan bagian dari materi Argumentative Essay. Adapun tujuan pembelajaran pada pertemuan ini adalah agar mahasiswa mampu menganalisis suatu isu yang bersifat debatable dengan mengidentifikasi argumen pendukung dan argumen yang berlawanan, mengorganisasikan ide ke dalam struktur argumentative essay, serta menulis argumentative essay yang terdiri atas introduction, supporting arguments, counter arguments beserta rebuttal, dan conclusion secara runtut dan meyakinkan. Pembelajaran dilaksanakan secara tatap muka dengan menerapkan pendekatan outcome-based education yang dipadukan dengan student-centered learning menggunakan model problem-based learning dan case method. Melalui pendekatan ini, mahasiswa didorong untuk aktif menganalisis permasalahan, berdiskusi secara kolaboratif, serta mengembangkan solusi dalam bentuk argumentatif essay. Pembelajaran diawali dengan penyajian sebuah isu kontekstual melalui pertanyaan pemantik, should supermarket stop giving plastic bags to customers? Mahasiswa kemudian menganalisis isu tersebut melalui kegiatan pro dan kontra analysis, mendiskusikan berbagai alternatif solusi berdasarkan fakta, serta menyusun outline argumentative essay, kemudian mengembangkan tulisan menggunakan struktur 5-part essay dan teknik PEEL atau point, evidence, explanation, and link. Selama proses pembelajaran, mahasiswa dilibatkan secara aktif melalui kegiatan diskusi kelompok, presentasi, tanya jawab, dan praktik menulis. Saya memberikan pertanyaan pemantik, memfasilitasi diskusi, serta memberikan umpan balik secara langsung agar mahasiswa dapat menyempurnakan argumentasi dan kualitas tulisannya. Penilaian dilakukan secara berkelanjutan melalui observasi, penugasan portofolio, dan tes. Komponen penilaian mata kuliah terdiri atas kehadiran sebesar 5%, ujian tengah semester sebesar 20%, ujian akhir semester sebesar 25%, serta tugas berbasis case method dan team-based project sebesar 50%. Selama pembelajaran berlangsung, saya melakukan observasi terhadap keaktifan mahasiswa dalam berdiskusi, kemampuan menganalisis isu, serta kemampuan menyusun argumen berdasarkan fakta dan bukti. Dan sebagai tindak lanjut, mahasiswa diberikan tugas individu untuk menulis sebuah argumentative essay sebagai assessment untuk mengevaluasi pemahaman mereka secara lebih mendalam, sekaligus mengukur ketercapaian tujuan pembelajaran pada pertemuan ini. Materi pembelajaran disusun berdasarkan berbagai referensi ilmiah yang relevan. Salah satu referensi utama yang saya gunakan adalah buku ajar Writing with a Global Purpose, A Handbook for Productive Written Language Skills, yang saya susun bersama tim dosen mata kuliah. Buku ajar ini mengintegrasikan tema Sustainable Development Goals sebagai konteks pembelajaran sehingga mahasiswa tidak hanya mengembangkan keterampilan menulis akademik, tetapi juga meningkatkan kepedulian terhadap isu-isu global melalui tulisan yang kritis dan berbasis bukti. Demikian penjelasan singkat mengenai implementasi pembelajaran pada mata kuliah Productive Written Language Skills. Selanjutnya, marilah kita saksikan video bersama. Selamat menyaksikan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good day, class. Good day. All right, so how are you, everyone? Good. So far, so good. So far, so good. I'm very well. Thank you for asking. All right. Okay. So before we start our lesson today, let's pray together. So pray begin. finish. All right. Secretary, anyone absent today?
No one absent.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we can start our lesson for today, right? Okay, so before we move to our lesson today, let's flash back to our lesson a week ago, right? So anyone knows? Anyone still remember?
Yes.
Okay.
So it is about organization of an essay.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, now who still remember the parts of a good essay? Anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I see.
So the organization of essay is, there are three, ma'am. The first one is the introduction, and then second one is the body, and then the last one is the conclusion.
All right, very good. Thank you, I see.
Question, ma'am.
All right, so since last week we have discussed about the organization of the essay, I'm pretty sure each of you already know, right, the structure of a good essay. And now, for today's meeting, we're moving to our next topic, that is about argumentative essay. Anyone knows argumentative essay? Have you ever heard it? Yes? Right? Of course, yeah. And then, this is the learning objectives of our today's lesson. So after learning this material, you are expected to be able to analyze a debatable issue by identifying supporting and opposing arguments, right? And then you should be able to organize ideas into the structure of an argumentative essay and write a well-structured argumentative essay consisting of an introduction, supporting arguments, a counter-argument with rebuttal, and a conclusion. All right, so now there is a Mentimeter here, right? We have learned before about an essay, right? And I'm pretty sure each of you also already know about the argumentative essay. And yeah, you can check on your, you can use the Mentimeter, that which feature makes an essay argumentative, in your opinion? What makes it different? An argumentative essay and the original essay. Semuanya pilih a clear position, right? Okay, so when we talk about an argumentative essay, you must have a clear position. Okay, so this is actually the argumentative essay. Yeah, so an argumentative essay is is a piece of writing where you take a clear position, right, on a debatable topic and support it with evidence and reasoning, not just opinion, but facts, examples, and logic. So not like the usual essay that you may have the two sides and you can talk about describing things in there, right? In argumentative, you choose sides, right? So the topic must be debatable, whether it is positive or negative, and you take your position, right? And then you put evidence, you put facts, you give examples to support your point of view, right? So, so this is the characteristic. So the topic must be debatable, right? So it must be the real world issues with two sides. So you cannot discuss any topic that only has one-sided. That is not debatable, right, for argumentative text. And then you must have a firm thesis, that you must state your clear stance in your argumentative writing. So you cannot say whether you are on positive or negative sides in this argumentative. So you cannot say that you are pro in two sides, right? Kadang kan kita bisa, memang kadang-kadang positif sih ma'am, cuman ada negatifnya memang, jadi saya netral. No, you can take the neutral position here, right? So you must choose one stance, right? And then it must evidence-based, so you have to use facts, data, and examples to support your claim. right? So you cannot, nggak boleh only use your opinion, ya kan? Dengar-dengar begini ma'am, kayaknya begini ma'am. Gitu. So ini tidak berlaku untuk argumentative. So everything must be based on evidence. Harus ada data, right? You can use facts for examples, right? Theory, facts from articles, yeah. So yeah, and then in formulating the argumentative essay, you also has to search for the counter argument, right? So it means that when you try to build your argumentative essay, you cannot just push your point of view only, right? Whether you are on the positive, on the negative sides, for example. When you think something is wrong, then you just say it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. But you also have to say, to see the positive sides, right? That is what we call as the counter argument, right? And then, yes, you put the counter argument, but it doesn't mean that you are in the natural position. The counter argument itself, then you will make the rebuttal, right? Jadi for example, you are on a positive sides on something, for example, right? And then, okay, but in a matter of case, some people say that this is negative thing, blah, 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 blah. But I'm pretty sure that it still can be blah, 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 to rebut it. So you put it back, you turn it back again to your point of view. Yeah. They still have the counter argument, but you put it back, right? You setir balik lah, ya kan, untuk kembali ke your point of view. And then at the last paragraph, at the very last paragraph, we come up to the strong conclusion. At the strong conclusion, apa yang dibuat? You restate again your position. The first things before we start to write, we have to define the problems. Right? We should know what the problem is. All right. So as the example here, I'll take an examples that should supermarkets stop giving plastic bag to customers? What do you think? Okay. Now let's go back to the Mentimeter. So this is going to be the questions. Right? Now you can choose. Should supermarkets stop giving plastic bags to customers? What do you think? As we know that today's, right, when you go to Indomaret, right, you have to pay for the plastic bag, or maybe sometimes mereka bahkan tidak lagi menyediakan plastic bag. Ya kan? When you forget to bring your own bag, then you have to hug it yourself, right? You have to hug it yourself, right? For your stuffs. And what do you think? Atau kalian mau membayar lebih 7.000 atau 15.000 rupiah? Do you agree? Supermarket should stop giving plastic bags to customers? So 11% agree, right? That supermarket should stop giving plastic bags to the customers. And then Now please give one strong reason whether you are tadi agree or disagree that the plastic bag should be stopped. Kalau tadi kalian agree, kenapa? Coba kalian kasih reasonnya di sini. Alright. So we already have 5 respondents here, right? So let's check. So what is one strong reason for against stopping supermarkets from giving plastic bags? Apa gitu tadi ada? Plastic isn't eco-friendly, and then to prevent the pollutions. Microplastics means that you stand for the yes or no? Yes, right? So plastic bag should be stopped, right? And then the environmental pollution,
hard to break, not always have plastic bag, and save money stands for the no, right? So there are the arguments to support and then the counter arguments. Still reduces plastic pollution is the best answer, right? We have most students choose reduces plastic pollution as the strongest argument. So we can use it as our thesis statement, right? Yeah. Yeah, so from should supermarkets stop giving plastic bag from the customers? So we have to define the problem first, right? So what is exactly the problem? You already choose, right, that supermarkets should stop, right, using plastic bag or giving plastic bag to the customers. And then because the problem is tadi apa? To reduce plastic bag waste, right, for example. And then here, because plastic bag can create pollution, right, the problems or any other problems. Tadi ada yang say about the oceans also, right? Yes, yeah, so it's harming oceans, wildlife, and communities worldwide. And then who is affected? Who is affected? The consumers, and then the supermarkets, the governments to take care of the environment, right? And then also the environment. Okay, good. And then, yes, that is the same. So now okay, so before we move here, kita balik lagi tadi ke thesis statement. Alright, so which thesis is clearest and most arguable? Udah semua belum? I think so, right? Okay, so which thesis is the clearest and most arguable? The first one is this essay discuss plastic bag, right? The second one is plastic bags are everywhere. The third one, plastic bags have advantages and disadvantages. And the last one is supermarkets should stop giving plastic bags to protect the environment and to promote sustainable behavior. What do you think? The last one, why? Yes, Alif, please.
So, ma'am, I think it's the last answer, ma'am,
Okay.
because it gives the clear POV or side, so we can know that the answer is debatable or not.
All right. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ali. Okay, so yeah, we have discussed about how to write a strong thesis statement. Now we're going to move to fill out the body. In organizing the body later, you should be able to think about what statement is for the pro, and then what statement is for the contra, right? And then to decide this, I want you to work in your group. Now let's divide into a group of 5, right? You will be divided into a group of 5, right? And then in each group you will discuss about the pro and contra in your opinion, why the supermarket should stop using plastic bags, right? So you have to categorize apa sih benefitnya kalau stop giving bags, atau apa sih benefitnya kalau keep giving bags. Alright, so you already discussed, and so which group already got the answer? Yes. Group?
So from our discussion, we find out that Indonesia is one of the world's largest contributor to plastic waste. Therefore, supermarkets should stop giving plastic bags to help reduce plastic pollution and protect the environment.
Okay,
That's all
so
from
that's the pro. What
us.
about the contra, for the contra argument?
We don't have the contra.
Alright.
We just pro the stop giving
Stop giving back.
Yes.
Okay. Any other opinion? Yes, please.
So in this, why supermarket should stop giving back? Our position here is to counter those arguments. So we just supermarket should continue giving plastic bag because it is more inconvenient for shoppers and give extra cost for reusable bag and for maybe counter argument because. The pros can say that it can reduce plastic pollution. When we shopping, we can actually ask for no plastic bag. We have our own choice. So therefore, we suggest that supermarkets should continue giving plastic bag.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So you already discussed about the pro and counter argument, right? And now we are moving to the structuring your essay. This is the technique, how to make it into a good paragraph of argumentative essay, right? You already know the thesis. You have the your point. You have your claim already, right? So especially in writing the body paragraph, right? You have to develop the ideas, right? You have to develop the ideas, and how to develop the body paragraphs, you can use the peel method. The peel method is that the first one you state your point, and then you show the evidence, and then you give the explanation, and then you link it. You connect it. All right? So, for example, right, the first one at the point you state your main idea, that the banning plastic bags in supermarkets significantly reduces plastic waste, right? When you agree that supermarkets should stop, right, should stop giving plastic bags, right, meaning that it will significantly reduces plastic waste. That is your claim. That is your point, right? That's your point. And then you should strengthen it with the evidence, because you cannot just claim without proposing an evidence to the audience, to the readers, right? So that's why in the evidence, you need to support it with facts, data, right? Research, for examples, right? And then all of that become waste, right? And then, after you put the evidence, you give the explanation. You link the evidence to your point. So this shows that eliminating plastic bags at the source can make a measurable environmental impact. Right? So you link your evidence back to your point. So you explain it. Right? So, and then the last one is connect to your thesis at the first paragraph. Right? So therefore, supermarkets have responsibility to lead this change. Karena thesis statementnya tadi apa? Supermarket should stop. Right? Supermarket should stop. Yeah, and then you link it again, go back to the first paragraph. Jadi, therefore, supermarkets have responsibility to lead this change. And then, so this is the part essay structure, right? So the first one is the introduction, right? You connect it with the hook, background on plastic bag pollution, yang tadi, right? So you explain about why we should stop using plastic bag. For example, supermarkets should stop giving plastic bags to protect the environment and promote sustainable consumer behavior. And then body one as the main argument. So yes, environmental damage caused by single-use plastic, right? And you develop it by using the peel tadi. Point, apa itu tadi? Point, evidence, explanation, and link it. All right, very good. And then when you have two paragraphs for supporting your arguments, don't forget, right, to use the counter argument and rebuttal, right? As we did earlier, you already categorized, right? Apa yang jadi pro dan apa yang kontra di data kalian. So you can use the contra thing to write the counter argument, right? So for examples, for example, tadi kan dealing yang kontranya dengan apa? Costs more money, right? And then don't forget to rebut it. But although you already used the counter argument as the contra, don't forget to rebut it, to turn it around, to go back to your point of view. Acknowledge inconvenience, concern, and rebut with policy solution and subsidize reusable bag. Right, so that is the rebuttal. So you still keep it back to your point of view. Walaupun ada kontranya disebutkan juga. Jadi di sini meaning that you are not only shoot it with only your point of view, but you also think about other point of view too. But then you give a rebuttal so that you can turn around the counter argument. And then the last one is the conclusion. So you restate the thesis, summarize key points, and call it to action. Yeah. When you talk about arguments, as if I say, yeah, don't forget to brainstorm yourself first with the pro and contra. You need to define the problem first, know where you stand, and then don't forget to decide pro and contra argument, to list it, right? So you need to explore both sides before you choosing your position. And then don't forget to questions. You have to understand the problem deeply before writing, right? So you need to define the problem and then to use peel for everybody paragraph, right? You need to use point, evidence, explanation, and link it, right? And then don't forget to follow the 5-part structure. And then always address the other side. Include the counter argument and rebuttal in Pdd 3. So don't forget the counter argument. You should see the both sides, but when you see the negative sides or the contra sides, don't forget to rebut it, right? Kayak di debat, jadi jangan lupa di rebuttal. Okay, so that's all about our today's lesson, right? And your task is to write. To make an argumentative text under the topic quality education, right? So the topic is about quality education. So you can choose the topic, or for example, should online learning continue, for example, or should facilities in the classrooms be good, for example, right? So you can choose, but before you start to write, don't forget, I want you also to make the table for pro and contra, and then you can choose your positions and write your text. And for next week, we're going to discuss about how to write a strong and convincing argument. You already know how the structure of argumentative essay, and then next time we're going to discuss how to write a strong and convincing argument. All right, so thank you very much, class, for today's meeting. Don't forget to do your homework, and see you next week, everyone. Thank you.